Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kilowatt. My name is Bodie, and I am your host, and I'm a little late getting this out. We've just had a really busy weekend. I did not realize when kids go into middle school, even though I've already got a 27-year-old who's been through middle school, I didn't realize how much homework kids had in middle school. It is an insane amount. Every day I ask my kids, how much homework do you have? And they're like, oh, only two pieces of homework from 2 classes. And then we look online and it's always, 2 hours of homework. I don't understand why. It's a lot. It's a lot. All right. But my wife mostly takes care of that. And I clean the house and do the yard because I'm not smart enough to do 6th grade or 7th grade math. All right, let's move on to our news. Volvo teased a new EV minivan, the EM90. We don't have any details on it at this point, but we do know on November 12th, 2023, they'll show the whole car off. And at that time, reservations will go live the same day. Not across the world, only in China. So if you're looking for an EV minivan, that's a little bit of bad news. But it's Volvo. They're an international brand. I feel really confident that we will see these all across the world soon, or relatively soon. We all know how superchargers work. You pull your car up to the supercharger, you plug in, if you own a Tesla, you charge your car, and then you unplug it, it charges the credit card on file, and you move on. Well, EVgo has a similar feature. It's called the AutoCharge Plus. Works the same way. Charge your car, and then it charges your credit card, and you drive away. I've got some good news for you. If you own a Rivian, you can now take advantage of EVgo's AutoCharge Plus feature. So I would like to welcome the Rivian owners to 2017, when that was fairly commonplace at Tesla superchargers. I'm just teasing. No shade. Moving on, Volkswagen's premium sedan, the ID.7, has officially entered production. If you're looking for a point of reference, the ID.7 is a little bit larger than the Volkswagen Passat. So if you're familiar with the Passat, that's how big the car is. The car will be built in Emden, Germany, the same plant that's producing the ID.4. It looks like it's going to come to Europe and China first, and then North America in 2024. Specs for the car, honestly, were all over the place. So I went to Volkswagen's website, and they have no specs on their website when it comes to the ID.7. So I will update this story when I actually get the official specs from Volkswagen. In terms of price, Volkswagen didn't have any pricing on their website either, but according to Teslarati, the ID.7 Pro Package will cost $61,479 US, or 56,995 euros. And I'd like to take a moment to congratulate Mark on the purchase of his new Volkswagen. Man, I apologize. I keep having to take breaks here. My voice is just going. So if this sounds like a rumbly chainsaw, which is what it sounds like in my head, I apologize for that. Let's move on to Lucid Motors. Lucid Motors CEO Peter Rawlinson said recently that Lucid would not make price cuts. Not long after that statement, Lucid made some price cuts, in some cases up to $12,400. Now Peter Rawlinson is saying that price cuts have been very well received by customers. And honestly, who knew that people, even rich people, wanted to keep more of the money that they worked hard for in their pockets and not give it to corporations? I am shocked at this. I am honestly shocked at this, and I'm pretty sure that I am the only person in the world who understands, or the first person in the world who understands, that people want to keep more money in their pockets so that they can do other things with it. I'm flabbergasted. I think I'm going to do a TED Talk. You know how I keep saying that this show has a lot of really kind, thoughtful people who support it through the Patreon? And honestly, that's true throughout the whole listenership. I haven't had too many people that were quote unquote mean. Most people are really nice and understanding and helpful in terms of making this show better. And I have 2 examples of that coming up. First up, Jerbo. Jerbo sent me some additional facts about the Fisker Alaska pickup truck. This came from a press release from Fisker. So there's a lot of hyperbole in here, which includes the Fisker Alaska will be the world's most sustainable pickup truck. Sure it will. There's an asterisk next to that. And if you go down, it explains that, these aren't forward-looking statements. That's aspirational. But anyway, moving forward with this. Some of this stuff we've talked about, but I do think it's worth revisiting. Let's start with the bed of the truck. The bed can expand from 4.5 feet, that's its normal state, to 7.5 feet if you put the Houdini door down. But then if you fold the tailgate down, you get a total of 9.2 feet. So that's a pretty big bed. I don't know if you can fit a whole sheet of plywood. I don't know how wide the bed is. If you could fit a whole sheet of plywood in there without touching the edges of the bed on the sides. But still, you can definitely fit some 2x4s in there as long as they're not longer than 9.2 feet. The battery configuration, they'll have a 75 kilowatt hour battery and a 113 kilowatt hour battery. In terms of range, it's going to start at 230 miles or 370 kilometers, and it'll go all the way up to 340 miles or 547 kilometers. Now, a 75 kilowatt hour battery getting 230 miles of range seems like a very inefficient vehicle. I understand that you're going to get some drag from the bed, the tailgate, but that just seems like a very small range number, 230. If I had to guess, Fisker is being very conservative on their numbers so that if they beat them, they can crow about it. And if they don't, they can say, we told you it's going to be 230 miles. 230 is pretty low for a small pickup truck, I think. It'll start at $45,400. It'll be manufactured here in the U.S. Production starts Q1 of 2025. You can put a deposit down for $250. And if you want more than one, your second deposit will just cost you $100, which is, quite frankly, a deal. Now, I told you that story so I could tell you this one. We have a patron to this show who will receive their Fisker Ocean soon, within the next couple of weeks. And they sent, I don't know, I'm using very vague terms for them because I don't know if they want me to use their name, but they sent me an update to our Fisker Q2 2023 earnings call, and they had some additional insights that I'm going to share with you now. So Fisker has committed to deliver all 5,000 Ocean 1s by the end of September. The Ocean 1 is the limited launch edition of the Fisker Ocean. So that's good news. 5,000 of these bad chickens are going to be delivered by the end of September. We'll see if Fisker can actually do that, but they said that they are committed to do that. All right. I'm having a hard time figuring out how to phrase this because I want to keep some anonymity for the person who sent me the email. So we'll just call them the patron. The patron was able to do a test drive of the Ocean, and they really liked the feel of the car. The car felt great, drove great. They did think the software was a little bit laggy. So if you remember on that Fisker Q2 2023 earnings call, Geeta Fisker mentioned that people were comparing the responsiveness to Fisker screens to the iPhone and found the Fisker Ocean screens to be laggy. And she's like, we should all be so lucky to be compared to the iPhone, blah, blah, blah. Well, I guess this was a little bit of a misquote or a misunderstanding on Geeta's part, which I'm sure it wasn't. She's really smart. The Fisker screens were actually being compared to Tesla's and Rivian's, not the iPhone, and they were still a little bit laggy. Again, my whole thing about this was that's okay. You just say, hey, we're doing the best we can. We're not going to hold up people getting their cars for a little bit of laggy software. You will get an over-the-air update, and they have been. I think it's been like once a week or once a month. The updates have been sent out. You're going to get new updates, and it's going to get better over time. We promise. I think that's all you need to do. Acknowledge that you have laggy software, but you're going to deliver. You're going to prioritize delivering cars. No big deal. Let's see. Oh, I did mention in that episode, the Fisker earnings call, that they should make sure that all the reservation holders in the launch countries had their cars before expanding to other countries like India and China. And the patron pointed out that reservations in India were open at the same time or close to the same time as the other launch countries. So these folks have been, if you're in India and you have a reservation, they've been in the process almost as long as everybody else in launch countries. There's only going to be a limited run of 100 Fisker Oceans that go to India, and I'm pretty sure they said that in the earnings call. And then as far as China goes, China will have a delivery center in the middle of 2024. And our patron says by that time, it's likely all of the reservation holders will have received their vehicles. So I am completely mollified by this. And I really want Fisker to do well. I think they're a very interesting company doing some very interesting things. I don't want to see them fail. And, I've heard some people say that Henrik Fisker is a charlatan. And I don't think that that's true. He has had several EV businesses, more than most, if I'm being honest, and they have failed. He is somebody who's put money and time out there to try and build something, and he has failed. And he looks like he's learned from it. He's been in the auto industry forever. He's designed some really iconic cars like the BMW Z8, Aston Martin DB9, the Aston Martin V8 Vantage. Like, it goes on and on. The Fisker Karma, well, probably, that failed. It was still a pretty impressive car. Viking motorcycles. I mean, it's just like, it's not as if he is a neophyte to the auto industry. So this isn't a podcast about defending Henrik Fisker. On average, most businesses fail, and I would say on average, EV startups fail at a higher rate than other businesses. So this is really hard to do. All right, let's move on to our final story in this segment. And it's GM news. It's a couple of different stories all kind of stacked together. First up, the 2024 GMC Hummer EV base model is now $1,600 more expensive. The base model wasn't the only model to see a price bump. The more expensive trims also got a price bump, but it wasn't by as much. But $1,600, pretty significant at the base. However, this is already a very expensive vehicle. And if you were able to afford a Hummer EV 2 weeks ago, you can probably still afford a Hummer EV today. It's just going to cost you $1,600 more at the base model. Moving on, federal regulators are investigating a chemical spill at GM's Ultium Cell plant in Warren, Ohio. A slurry of battery materials mixed with a hazardous solvent leaked. Now, I could tell you the name of the chemical, but we're just going to call it methyl ethyl death for two reasons. One, that's what hazmat people call it when there's a chemical that could kill you, either now or later. And number two, I can't pronounce the actual, chemical's name. So, we'll just leave it at that. Methyl ethyl death. Let's discuss some of the health issues if you were to come into contact with this set of chemicals, the slurry. First up, short term, you're going to have some effects to your nervous system, nausea, dizziness, drowsiness. If you're pregnant, you could see fetal loss. So this is no joke. Long-term impacts would impact your ability to concentrate. You would have memory loss, depression, anxiety, irritability, and then fertility issues for men and women. This is not good stuff. Now, I will say no employees were injured or exposed. And in cases like this, and at least here in the United States, companies are required to have several different layers of containment. So for some reason, if a chemical was to have a spill or leak, then there's a barrier that it's not supposed to get past. And normally, I won't say best practices, but normally there's another containment area outside of that initial containment area, just in case for some reason it does get past that first containment area. So I have no reason to believe that GM and Ultium were not using best practices. I'm sure that they had everything in place, especially since nobody was hurt. But the United Auto Workers Union did have some concerns. Back in July, they wrote a white paper and they expressed concerns about the pay and working conditions at the plant, calling it unsafe. At that time, GM's Ultium Cell business called the white paper knowingly false and misleading, and maybe it wasn't entirely false or misleading. As for the latest spill, or the one that we're talking about on this podcast, this is what the UAW had to say. This is the latest in a long line of serious health and safety hazards our members have had to endure at Ultium, and underscores why it is critically important that Ultium adopt the health and safety standards that generations of auto workers have fought for and won at General Motors. These accidents are preventable and manageable. Sadly, Ultium chooses to prioritize their bottom line over human safety. Now, I don't know if any of that is true or not, but it seems like the UAW workers have had a concern for a while. Again, I am a proud union member. I support unions and I believe in unions. And as somebody who's been in the fire service for over 20 years, I will say there are plenty of times when our goals for safety did not match not so much administrators, but city council goals. Now, I've worked for 3 different departments, so you parse that out to what you will. It doesn't necessarily mean that was the department I'm currently in. I'm just saying it always ended up working out in that we were able to come to a resolution, but there was quite a bit of education that needed to take place. And usually when it comes to safety or how to improve on some processes, that kind of stuff usually comes from the bottom up. That's just my experience. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on this and we'll see what the federal regulators, which is OSHA, Occupational Safety Health Administration, we'll see what they have to say about it. The plant will be shut down until a third party mitigates the leak and does the cleanup. One more GM story to get to. GM has laid off 900 plus employees at their Arizona IT Innovation Center in Chandler, Arizona. And here's what GM had to say. As part of GM's continued transformation and to better align our innovation center footprint and IT resources in the U.S., we have made a decision to cease our IT operation at our Chandler, Arizona Innovation Center later this year. Employees working in our software-defined vehicle teams will remain in Arizona. Affected employees will have the opportunity to apply for open positions. I read that earlier this week, and then my wife just said, hey, so-and-so just lost their job. And, I barely know this so-and-so, but I said, oh, did they work for GM? And she said, yeah, they worked in the IT department. So I actually know somebody who lost their position at this facility. And this person's a really nice she's really nice. She has 2 kids. This sucks. Like, she's a single mom with 2 kids. This sucks. This is not. I'm sure GM's going to offer a really nice severance package. I'm sure she'll be fine. She's really smart, but it doesn't, it doesn't take away from the fact that this is stressful for families who have to go through this. And hopefully they're able to either find employment within GM itself, the company, or they're able to find employment with other companies. So good luck to everybody who got laid off. That sucks. All right, everybody, we're at 19 minutes and we've just covered the GM part of this. My voice, I feel like it's getting better, but I've had to take several breaks throughout this because my voice is just getting trashed. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to end it here on the EV news segment. And then tomorrow or later tonight, when my voice is recovered a little bit, I will do the Tesla segment and we'll just we'll definitely have 2 episodes. Maybe we'll have 3 episodes this week. It kind of depends. I do want to say, if you would like to support this show, you can go to patreon.com/kilowatt. You can also support the show on Acast Plus. If you do support the show on Acast Plus, could you send me an email and let me know that you did? Because they don't send any updates or notifications that new people subscribed. I don't know why. Anyway, I do want to thank everybody for their patience. I hope you enjoyed the show. It's one of the hardest I've had to make in a while. So I want to thank everybody for listening. I appreciate each and every one of you. You can email me, Bodie, BODIE at 918digital.com. You can follow me on X at 918digital. And I hope you all have a wonderful Sunday. And I will talk to you soon, maybe tomorrow. Talk to you very soon.